training teacher was all in the fall. There, that subdivision.
Yeah, I guess, I haven't.
Deb, can you hear us?
Yes.
June, July.
Perhaps we figure out how to do it legally, what it's all right.
I see. No.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I don't like that rule, so. You're good.
People seem to, in 2004, they brought people doing that kind of stuff more. Continue. It's kind of like the work from home deal now. It's got people around.
I just know ladies club. I mean, my wife joined the ladies club.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got like 70 members.
Yeah.
They
play on.
They have more women than they do men.
They play on Monday mornings. I think.
Yeah. And then
No, you thought I had
she
one.
gets she plays whenever. She says to get more women.
When he was elected back then, they were here.
That's what you need, then I know you. Yeah, dirty.
Even then,
It's gotta be dirty.
Yeah.
got a granddaughter last night, so.
I listened to it.
Pro, I said, I can get pink porta potties. They make them pink. No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. That's tax. This is right. I'm saying, right, not a lot. It would be, Stu help me now, just send our statement.
I think he just, I think he's just been
That's what I thought. Okay.
I think it's just like one class.
He's trying to justify
Let's call the meeting to order. This is the August Pendleton Town Council meeting for 2021. Let's have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Chief Jordan, you can lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Robert Jones.
I'm here.
Marissa Skaggs.
Here.
Shane Davis.
Here.
Steve Denny.
Here.
Chet Babb.
Here. We do have a quorum. Okay, next thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from the July 8th meeting. We've all had a chance to look at them. Any questions or comments or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the minutes for July 8th.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor to approve, say aye.
Aye.
All that disagrees, the same. It's carried 5-0. Minutes are approved. Clerk Treasurer's report.
Good evening. Start off with a little positive note. We received half of our COVID money, which amounted to about $492,000. So we have rules and regulations on how we can spend that, and the board, I'm sure, is aware of that. To the general fund, I give you a copy of July 1st and August 1st, and you can see the general fund is in real good shape. And I think all of you have had a chance to look at the allowance docket and the voucher register, so good all the way around. Any questions?
Can I have a motion to approve the claims for the month of July?
I'll make a motion, we approve the clerk treasurer's report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Report approved. Department reports. Chief Nodine.
Good evening. Another exciting day at the fire department today. So in the last month of July, as you see on the board, we did 67 total runs in comparison to last year's 37. So we are actually at the DOT garage right now and have been for the last couple hours in a semi-trailer fire. And that put us over the 1,200 mark for runs for the year. So no pun intended, but we're blazing right along with the amount of runs that we're doing for the year for this department. So credit to everybody that's over at the fire department, the staff on the ambulance side as well as the fire department side for what they've done. Obviously, with the COVID numbers kicking up a little bit, we're going to tighten things back down again with the fire department probably coming up soon. I'm hoping the numbers kind of level off so it doesn't put our public safety day in jeopardy. Once again, that's on the 29th of this month. We look forward to that being here. So my report short and sweet today, so I will entertain any questions if you guys have.
Any questions or comments to the chief? Thanks, Chief.
Cool, thank you.
Chief Farr.
Good evening.
Evening.
Pelham Police Department monthly report. Real quick, I was invited to the library the other day. This was the first time I've been invited to this event. It's an at-risk group of children that have meetings over there once a month, I believe. And it was kind of nice to have a question and answer period with the kids. Why does this happen when I do this, and vice versa, choices in their lives. And we determined that their behavior needs to change or they're gonna get in trouble further. But we had a great discussion. It was a good time. I'm glad they invited me over. I did put in this report a little bit about Captain Sidwell. Captain Sidwell, the joke is he's dead to me. I've told him that 50 times. He's my buddy. We've been friends 25 years. With that being said, he's in Arizona now looking at sunsets on his ATV he just bought, so, and showing us pictures. But what I did just to document in this report, so it's on file with the town for the rest of it's just a little bit of his background coming from Ingalls, reaching the position of captain. We had some light bulbs out today at the PD and we had to argue who was gonna change it because he wasn't there to do it. So, we're making small adjustments as we move ahead. Chaplain Tom Hunt, I don't know if you remember Tom, he was the initial chaplain for the police department. He first started years ago back in Anderson PD, and then he hounded me and hounded me and hounded me that I needed Jesus. And Tom and I became great friends, and he became the chaplain at the PD. And he just recently passed away. And once Tom left us, we had Trey Oldham. Trey Oldham then moved out of state, and now we have Pastor Daniel Stevens, and he's with the Baptist Church up in North Anderson. He's our current chaplain for the police department. And if it weren't for Tom, we wouldn't have that program. Real quick note, the command staff of the department conducted interviews for the open position left by Captain Sidwell and our promotion of Officer Traylor to the position of captain. During those interviews, we received several good candidates for the night shift spot, and together we chose to hire Officer Matthew Eby. Matt was off tonight and wasn't able to come in on Thursday, but I'll hit him one of these nights when he's on duty and bring him in. Matt comes to us from Ingalls, and he's a 2018 graduate from the Law Enforcement Academy, and he lives just outside town between here and Marklewood. 2 children in the school system, so it's a good fit. And he's super excited. He's been walking around his first 4 days, just a smile every day. So he's excited to be here and part of the community. 1,533 total dispatched incidents, so I guess we're shooting up. Yeah. I wrote that down. I made that quick note. I could have kept going.
Don't pass up this opportunity to use it.
15 crashes, 31 total criminal arrests, and when I say criminal arrests, you guys all have this in your packets, but it's kind of interesting to look at the nature of those type of arrests. So we had Domestic battery, another battery, possession of marijuana, hash, possession of methamphetamine, possession of syringe or needle, possession of paraphernalia, OWI controlled substance, so that means drunk on drugs. Another OWI, possession of legal drugs, or legend drugs, so illegal drugs, maintaining common nuisance and operating never licensed. So, drugs and alcohol is still prevalent in all towns and societies, and hopefully people will learn, get the word out not to drink and drive. We have Ubers now, there's no reason to be driving. They changed the PI law, a lot of people forget about that. So you can walk home from the stable under the influence of alcohol. You just can't be a danger to yourself. So if you're falling and stumbling, et cetera, then you're gonna draw attention. But if you're walking straight on the sidewalk home and you've had a few beers, it's legal now. They changed that law. And I think people live old school, they're still scared of even doing that. I think in the law enforcement business, we'd rather you do that than drive. So there's my public safety speech for the night, and that is it, unless you have something.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions?
Mark, did you have a training exercise this week? I saw a lot of state police look like cars up there.
State police came up and used the new shoot house.
Good, good.
And they were giddy to be able to use it. In fact, the lead SWAT commander for this district, which runs from here to northern Indiana, was ecstatic that they have no facility like this in the state of Indiana for them to practice in. And so between his ideas and my ideas, we're just gonna make it better for our community law enforcement, outside agencies, state police, whoever wants to use it. So
Good
it's a
job,
great
buddy.
lesson.
Good job.
Thank you.
I don't see the judge. Is he online? Nope. That's all right. Park, he sent out an email, he's not gonna be here. Kayla?
We're gonna go ahead and defer.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
if I
Both
could-
of you?
Well, what I'd like to do is just kick off with, the two members of the insurance committee, employees insurance committee.
Let's go ahead and do the planning and town manager. I'll move them up the top.
Okay, on, planning, we'll just, let you look at the hard copy of the staff for this month. Continues to show the same as last. And Kayla's here in case you have any questions on that. As far as the town manager's report, we'll be really quick. If you go to the next slide. Okay, major activities. Water Street, they're halfway done with the sidewalks, and then once we're done with the sidewalks and the curbs, will be substantially complete, and all we have to do is pave it. Franklin Street, as you know, last week we really got into the exercising the detour. I think it went off pretty well. Mark's crew did a good job. They've got somebody out there, and they've done a real good job keeping the semis out. Usually if they come in from the east. We did, I don't know if you know, but we put up some speed bumps just before school started on the elementary, and then painted, reflective paint on the crosswalk. We'll beefing that up a little bit. And then, what's that say? Oh, the Pines Pond, that's been a thorn since day one. The developer finally put in the discharge pipe. It looks good, they did a good job, so that's something to get off our back. If you go to the next slide. That's just a picture, I wish we could make that bigger. That shows the pipe, they started at the creek and they work uphill, and you can see that 36-inch concrete pipe. They had to cut into the seawall, and they're into State Street now. We had a little bit of trouble, but once they make that turn to start going to the east on State Street, it'll go fast. And then all our departments are they're firing in all their spark plugs. Milling department, there's been a lot of personal issues with department, as you know, we lost Justin, he went on to something else. Ryan's taking over, so they're short, we're gonna run advertisements here quickly to try and get another water treatment plant operator. So they're short-staffed, busy, but they're keeping up, so we're pretty proud of them. Mr. President, would you like us to go right into the insurance?
Please.
Okay, so, the leadership at Chet Bab, we formed an employee insurance committee, and they went through and had a couple presentations, first and foremost with the existing carrier, which is self-insured. But they ended up picking through Apex, insurance coverage by United Healthcare. And that's a fully insured program. So we're gonna shift from self-insured to fully insured. And so 3 of the members are, actually 4, because Karen's here too. So it was Karen, Kayla, Scott, Bertram, and then Craig, Josh Blake, no, Sam Kroga, sat in on the committee, and they were good. And, they're here to tell you, what they selected. For the town, it's basically financially neutral. In big numbers, it might be a little bit higher, might be a little bit lower for us, but they were able to get a lot more benefits for the same bang, for the employees. So, you two, if you want to stand up and talk about it. They'll be short.
Thanks.
And tonight, we'll just need your approval to change the insurance company's coverage.
All right, my name's Josh Blake. I work for Fire and Light. I'm representing 11 people at the barn.
Scott Bertram, as you can guess, police department. Sam Kroger and I were representing 12 employees.
So one thing we have with United right now, or Unified, I'm sorry, we're going through United Healthcare, but with Unified, we've only had 2 options, as you can see at the top of your page. There's 2 tier options, so you could either be a single, be on a single plan, or you could have a family plan. There was no in between for people that had just husband and wife, or parent, child, or anything like that. There was nothing in between. Parent, child paid the same as the family, or if you're single, you're single. So one thing we're going to with Apex, with your approval, through United Healthcare, is a 4-tier plan, which includes right there, employee plus child, employee plus spouse, and then a family price compared to what we had, which was employee only and family only. The premiums are pretty significant as far as what we were paying compared to what we will be paying, as long as it's approved.
When you say significant, Josh, higher?
Yes, I can.
No, that's okay.
The current family plan right now, like, he's on, so we use Stan Brown's example, Stan
Right.
and spouse.
That's what I wanted to hear.
He'll save about $140 a month.
Right.
It'll go back in his pocketbook.
It's like $379 a month now for the family plan, and like an employee spouse is $253, something like that. And it only makes sense because why should a husband and spouse pay the same with a family with 18 kids? It's a no-brainer. And we went with Unified and got those tier plans, and they came back and they were much higher, and it was a little crazy for the self-insured. The dental coverage goes up by $500 a year, and they also offer a $1,500 one-time orthodontics, which we didn't have before. The vision plan is also an increase coverage, as you can see. Before we couldn't have any specialty medications covered with this plan. There are people that have specialty meds. They're covered under the Apex plan, they're not covered under the Unified plan. Long-term disability, short-term disability increases or stays less, or stays the same for less cost to the employee. So before, the town covered life insurance and short-term disability. Now, with this new plan, the town's gonna cover, as long as it's approved, back also a creation of an HRA, health resource account for out-of-pocket max, which on the Apex plan, the out-of-pocket max was a little bit more compared to the unified max, but with the HRA set up through the town, I think we had 3 or 4 people hit max out-of-pocket last year. I think the town is definitely saving money there, and it also helps the employee. And also, the high deductible, I think one of the most important things that the town has offered, but nobody's really on it right now because there's no benefit to being on a high deductible, which the town is proposing an HSA, which is a health savings account, which we were able to do the health savings account before, but we just didn't have it set up because there's only 2 people on the high deductible plan right now, because it's not attractable for family members, because it was only family members or single. And to go from the family PPO plan, which is the preferred plan, to the high deductible plan, there was not a change really, except for your deductibles went way up. So we proposed a HSA, which is a health savings account, where you can put money into an account pre-tax. I can't, he can't, whoever's on the high deductible plan, it's only the high deductible plan, and the town's proposed to match some monies on the health savings account as well, to match whatever you put in, employee contribution, so. There's a lot, going on with this new plan. And there's a lot more to offer, in my opinion. We've been with Unified for 25 years, and they made that clear, and they don't do anything but raise our rates and take coverage away from us every single year, so that's where we're at, so. See if we have any questions.
I got a comment, okay? Josh, and well, the whole group of the town employees along with Scott met on this and spent a lot of time and dug into the numbers and what was good for the employees and what was good for the town. That's what made it good, because all of them on the committee, once they thought they knew which way they were going, they asked me to come to a meeting. And what Josh just said about, and I'm not throwing any stones at Unified, but they made it clear we've done this for 25 years, so this is the best you're going to get. And the whole team of them took them on, and you see what they've done here. I mean, and we had the employees doing it, which I was real big with Scott and getting done. Tried to do it last year. I didn't start it soon enough. You have to do this in August by the way things are set up. So thank you guys for what you've done, all of you that was on the committee.
They did an amazing job.
Yep.
I think for the town, where we'll see the most savings is if the employees that switch to the high deductible, and by setting up an HSA where we kickstart it for them, and then they match, we go 50-50 to the federal max, which is $3,700 for single, 73s. We save for every person that moves over, the town saves for every person that moves to the high deductible, even with us kicking in $1,000 for a single and $2,000 for a family on the HSA. So
It's definitely more attractive to go to the high deductible now than it was before. Appealing, attractive, whatever you want to say.
yeah.
Comments or questions from the council? Chief?
I just wanted to say I agree with what you said.
Really?
I want to thank the town manager and the council for seeing the need for a committee such as this. As a, not chief, but an employee, 15-year employee now, just a little bit more on that. We've never had this. Our representation, unfortunately, has always been, while the council looked and tried to help and blah, 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 sometimes the councils aren't here long enough to see the need and all that. And then some of the representation over the years was people that didn't have the insurance. So you gotta have some desire there too. Well, this particular committee, and I've told Bertram since they went on it, you tell me what you're gonna do this committee, I have full faith in this group. I don't question one bit that this isn't the best they could do, or even if we stayed with Unified or whoever, I was fully confident. Each person on the board has a different life, status, engaged, get married, married kid, no kid, this. So not one group was coming up which was best for them. And I believe all town employees feel that same way. So
Yep.
thank you, town council, thank you, town manager, for relinquishing that. And then the committee, of course, for having the energy to volunteer. Thank you.
Definitely, thank you, and thank you.
Josh, was there anything with the new company about pre-existing conditions?
We had talked about that,
No,
it's.
that's not an issue.
It's not
Federal law.
federal law now?
took that out, yeah.
Okay, good.
So
Good job,
our
guys.
rate is based on the community. When we were self-insured, a lot of it was based on just the number of employees that were signed up. So one employee getting really sick could really throw a monkey wrench in. And then the last thing is, with insurance, whether it's self-insured, fully insured, there is a little bit variable how much risk the town does carry when it's a bad year. Our risk is actually a little bit lower with the fully insured. Now, if things start going crazy like it was 20 years ago with insurance rates, and we have to go back to self-insured because it's out of control, then so be it. And I say that we keep the self-insured fund, which will, by the time this is all over, we'll have about $880,000. We keep that in case we do need to go back to self-insured.
Explain that, Scott.
So when you're
Just a little
self-insured, there
detail.
was, whenever we had a low expense year or month, then money would accumulate. So over those so many years, it's built up to roughly now 220, but as we switch, there'll be some bills that come in, we pay, and the prediction is it'll be down to about 180, 3 or 4 months from now. So I say we keep that, in case we need to switch over.
And another, I'm gonna throw this out and listen to you. A year from now, we'll do the same
We'll do
thing.
the same thing always.
And if they need or think as a group, we need to go look at another company because we don't agree or like what happened this year. We can do this every year and try to improve like the whole team done this year. I'm agree with the chief. It's a big plus for the employees and the town. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
During all this, was there any conversation about in the future having a town clinic or anything like that? Anybody talk about that?
We did not, that's an idea we bring it up.
With Apex, the one thing is they have a whole lot more options that we can explore. It's a matter of thinking of those ideas. They'll be bringing a wellness program for employees, Unified.com. It'll be a way for employees to get a small refund or rebate on the premiums they've paid. That was never offered before. Just little things like that that we thought of to ask. Oh, we got that, we need that, no problem. So that'd be something we could look into.
Okay.
Good.
A lot of the clinics you're talking about are tied to towns with self-insured. I know Newcastle has a clinic and they're self-insured.
Okay.
So it's tied to that rather than the insurance company.
Okay.
Is there any change with the retiree component? All the same?
Yeah, that would be your decision when we do the salary ordinance, how to handle retired employees. But we assumed that they were gonna still be part of it.
Which is nice for some of the retirees that have husband and wife that were paying $379 a month. Now they have the husband and wife's, I should say husband and wife, employee spouse plan, which will lower their rates.
Lower the rate?
You figure that out, and Scott used Stan and his wife as an example. It's $100 and some a month. Okay, that's $1,200 a year that Stan and his wife is gonna have the same insurance, actually better.
Better
And
insurance.
he's gonna keep $1,200 in his pocket. So, again, thank you very much for what you guys done, the whole team. Any other comments or questions? I think all we really need to do is, do we need to vote on it?
Just a vote, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna call for a motion to approve the team and the town manager to move forward with changing our insurance from Unified to Apex. Is that correct, Apex?
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the insurance committee.
That's good.
And I'm gonna second, but I have one quick question. When would this be, when would this start?
1 September.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna start Tuesday, 10 and 2. If you wanna sit in on it, we're gonna do the enrollment for the employees.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Okay. I have a motion second to approve the new town health insurance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. It's approved. Again, good job. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the, Josh, you don't have to stay for all this, none of you do. I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Make sure he lines things out like it's.
Okay. Lines things up. Okay, let's go to new business.
Did you skip a mark?
Pardon me?
Did you skip a mark?
Yes?
All right, 2 part things.
Okay.
They're super quick. I've gotten some NAPs coming up for 2 events. I talked to Aaron earlier.
I seen your comment on the fishing.
Yeah, well, we had fishing comment, and we have the Park Fest, BYOB. They're bringing their own booze. So just wanted to touch base with that. First of all, the park. Lions Club puts on the annual fishing derby. And they stock the pond the night before, and they scream and yell that the Pelton Police Department does not enforce people to not fish in the pond after they've stocked it. Well, we enforce law and ordinance. There is no laws or ordinances that we can enforce. So, we catch the brunt of something we can't do. So in years past, I've told them they need to wrap it in tape, make it loud that no fishing, and they do that. But technically, if someone drops a line, they can. And word spreads, I believe, because people come down and do it. Sneak in at night and catch those catfish.
Yep.
With that being said, I did reach out to Joe Julian, the local DNR officer. I'm asking him again. I believe the pond does fall under state jurisdiction because there's underwater connectivity to the creek through pipes. So because of that connection, it meets one of those, it's a state waterway. So I don't know if the town or park can have an ordinance that says during special derby fishing events, no fishing, which boom, then I can enforce. Or without that ordinance, can the Lions Club, like they don't do for the June Jamboree, but they expect us to work security, but they don't pay anybody to do it, and then complain. Do they hire security to watch the pond so we can help that way? But right now, for me to walk up to the pond and tell somebody, hey, you can't fish, I'm a little bit overstepping my boundary, and 2, they can tell me to go fish. So, yeah, you like that? I'm one of those.
That's two tonight.
Comedy show versus a council meeting.
The electrician comes out of nowhere.
He needs a snare.
And the other one, when I heard about the BYOB at the Park Fest, don't get me wrong, I'm a Ball State graduate, number 10 party school at the time. I may have drank beer in my life. I reviewed the ordinance, and so far they're meeting the criteria. Now, they did comment about having security, and I just wanted to touch base because the Pelton Police Department's long-standing thing has been to stay away from alcohol-related events. And I don't know if that's an old-school idea or if it just keeps us liability out of trouble or whatever, but if they're having this in the park and BYOB is a possibility and it's in town, I was gonna offer it up to the men if they wanted more security. But I just wanted to touch base and see if that was an old-school thought that we've always gone by for some reason, or other departments do it. You know, you tell me. I don't.
I'm not aware of other departments that do it. I'm always hesitant to change long-standing things unless we have a really good reason to do it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the past. The park used to be 0 alcohol, so that was real easy to enforce. Now we've gotten into the events where they can have a caterer, which is fine, because then it meets the Indiana excise. They come in and they give it their stamp. But this is just, hey, we're having this, and if we can get the approval all from these people, we can tell people, bring your wine and beer, which I just don't know if that's something the town wants to start or not.
I know on the application that they turned in, it says right on there, 2 off-duty police officers. It
Right.
doesn't say Pendleton police officers, but 2 off-duty. And the only question I had, Scott, and I'd like for you to follow up on this, is make sure insurance-wise, our insurance, park insurance, we're okay with, I think we are from past events, but just make sure, carrying it in, I don't think we've ever done. We'd have the blocked off areas
Right,
in the
and
park, and
excise
you stayed
against the-
inside that.
Somebody serving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of different, that's why I threw a flag and I love the ordinance, and as long as they meet certain criteria, which so far they have, they've contacted the town manager, they've contacted the park board, they've contacted the Pendleton police chief, so.
Scott, if you would, let, I think it's Lisa and Coco on it, and make sure they understand. In my opinion, council can vote on this, but we shouldn't be putting our police officers over there in uniform that evening.
Well, the only thing, if we do, and again, we will enforce law, so, but it's kind of interesting, you know, the age and there's just couple little caveats to it that applies.
Are they charging to get into this?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's a good event.
yes.
And they should pay their security.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they've asked. for
Everybody else
security.
does.
My point is we've never worked an event
Oh,
that
in the
involves
park.
alcohol outside the events where they've got the application with Indian excise and all that, a cordoned off place and someone checking.
And someone
IDs,
serving it.
And someone
Yeah.
serving it with a license and checking IDs. And, cause we'll enforce
Doing
law,
cutting
you know,
off
if someone's
necessary.
gonna get so drunk, they get in a fight, or so drunk, they are detriment to themselves, I mean, we deal with that, that's what we get paid to do. But this one's just, it was just different, so I just wanna make sure.
Is this the
everybody-
event that is, the proceeds are going to help the park department?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's a little different, yeah.
I just wanna make sure that you're or that, I don't know, that there's no misunderstanding here, because I had seen it too, but it's BYOP as in picnic. And on their banner, it says BYOP, and it says bring your own picnic. So.
While no alcohol will be sold by outside vendors, attendees will not be prohibited from bringing their own.
Okay, but they're not like promoting it as BYOP, that's what my point, it's being promoted as BYOP as in picnic.
Okay. And when say, can we bring alcohol, it says right here, it's not gonna be prohibited, so. the
Right,
word
in
is
other
sent
words,
out.
they're just staying away
Yeah.
from it.
Bring your own.
But it's not being promoted.
Yep, I read it too. Yep.
Yeah, I'm all for events, I like events, this one was a little different, and that's the only reason I brought attention to it.
Back to the security part of it, I don't understand why Pendleton PD couldn't, why the park couldn't hire off-duty Pendleton police officers to do the security and and the park pays them a fee for their services. I don't understand why we couldn't do that.
I have no problem with the.
If you don't have a problem
function
with it.
paying
Right.
I don't care where the money comes from, if they're paying for security. Remember years ago, what was it, Edgewood? I don't know about Anderson, but Edgewood used to work the hotel securities, at the door. Pendleton PD's long-standing rule is if it involves alcohol, we stayed away.
Right.
Just because it ups the ante of trouble. And
Well, it used, cause I worked at the Holiday Inn back in the day, and we stopped that because officers were getting hurt in fights. But we provide security for Beer Fest in Anderson every year. So I kinda correlate that Beer Fest with this
Well,
with
but at
this
least you
Park
have a
Fest.
server at Brewfest in Anderson. This is, I brought a bottle of wine, I'm gonna sit in
Right, right.
Barnhart and if I drink the whole thing, I drink the whole thing, I think is what your concern is
Well,
you-
my concern
No,
is, we have never done it.
Oh, okay.
And I was just looking for a blessing of, we don't have a problem with our officers working an event where there's alcohol. That's all I wanted to hear, so I can tell my guys, cause like I said, I don't know what caused it back in 1905, but Pendleton PD has ran from anything involving the alcohol.
Prohibition.
I would rather see our local law enforcement
Me
at the
too.
event than having county officers or an outside agency. Because you get an outside agency besides Madison County in here, and they really kind of lose their jurisdiction a little bit. And they kind of, it's a little confusing. for
Well,
them.
the outfitters for years, you've seen it.
Right.
It's private security guys, in
Right.
polos that aren't from here, and it's because of the alcohol, we stayed away from it. And, so, yeah, this one was twofold. One, they've actually offered 2 positions to be paid, which will be negotiated, and then the alcohol. I just wanna make sure that everybody on council doesn't have a problem with Pelton PD.
Are you okay with it?
Yeah,
I'm
that's
good
my
with it.
question,
I-
yeah.
My guys like money. so
I would
I'm
be
good
okay with it, but I don't think the town or the park should pay for it. I think the
No, no, no,
event
it's-
should
it's-
pay.
Yeah, I don't
The event.
disagree. Yeah, the event, and they put that in here, they
Right.
released them too, so we'll talk about that.
No town funds are gonna be used to
No.
pay. It'll be a private, yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine
good.
with it.
Yeah,
Any other comments for the chief?
Changing times.
Yep,
Yeah,
go for
that's
it.
all.
And, you know, it's benefiting the park, so I totally agree. I think it's time that, you know, they did that, yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's look at ordinance 21-18, Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO. I'm gonna start with Kayla. Kayla, if you will, and then KK, you guys keep it. Okay?
After a very long process, I'm proud to present to the town council ordinance 21-18, which is a unified development ordinance. We have not gone through this process in many, many years. I believe our last unified development ordinance was passed in the 1990s, and updated in the early 2000s. So it's been many years, and it's about time. So I'd like to introduce our consultant, KK Gerhard Fritz, and her sub-consultant, who worked closely with her on this, is Deb Luzier, who's available via Zoom.
She's waving at you,
Yep.
yeah.
And anyway, just to recap, this is a document that controls our zoning, our subdivision ordinance, our uses that are allowed in the town, land uses, things like that. So it's really the planning department's guiding legislation. It's the most important document that Hannah and I utilize on a daily basis when somebody comes in and says, where can I put my yard barn? How tall can my fence be? How close to the road can my house be? How wide can my driveway be? Those are all things that are covered in this document. So it's, like I said, I can't even express to you how important this document is, and I'm just very excited to present it to you tonight. So I'll turn it over to KK to summarize.
Thank you.
So last night, we had a public hearing at the Planning Commission, and in your town council folder, I did put a copy of the PowerPoint presentation from last night. If you wanna look through that, I'm not gonna go through it again. Chip's going, thank goodness, because he sat through it last night. But we have it here, if you wanna answer any questions. Basically, we went through a process where to combine the zoning and subdivision ordinance into one document. We worked with a steering committee, and I wanna just give a shout out real quick to our members, Marcy Deshong, who's a local business owner, and she was there last night, Kyle Eichhorn, Lisa Floyd, Carol Hanna, Kim Hartman, Taylor Metz, Tim Pritchard, Heather Upton, and Eric Weflin. And we met 4 times officially as a committee. There was a whole lot of homework, and Marcy, I think, reminded us all of that last night. They spent a lot of time looking at things and researching things and doing things. And one of the things that the steering committee agreed early on, there were a lot of different viewpoints in there, is that they would not recommend anything that there wasn't consensus on from that group. So we did not have anything that they pushed forward that was a minority opinion or a split decision. The results that you got were the consensus of this group. In addition to that, I said last night we had 2 focus group meetings, and then I remembered we really added a 3rd one. So we had 3 focus group meetings, which some of you may have been involved in, where we talked to the development community, real estate, people, engineers, et cetera. We did a lot of research with what your plan recommendations are. You have your comprehensive plan, your bicycle pedestrian master plan that I previously worked on, your downtown plan, all these, and the new thoroughfare plan, of course. All these plans are policy documents, so they're not enforceable. So to turn that into enforceability, we have to take what the recommendations are from those plans and actually make them local ordinances. So that was a lot of what we did, was figure out, well, how do we translate that into this ordinance? So that's kind of how we approached it. We ended up with a 10-chapter document that's been out for public review. This is double-sided, folks, for the last month. And we had a shared open house with the thoroughfare plan that many of you were at, and only had one comment that came back formally from that, and they wanted us to make lighting stricter in the community. And so that was the only formal input, just chatting with people. The general consensus was it's time to update and be proactive for the town and adopt a new ordinance. So that worked well, working with that process. One of the biggest things we found was there were some lessons learned that we talked about extensively with our steering committee about zoning districts. And in the past, the town had a planned unit development option, which is essentially a developer writing their own zoning district. They write all their standards as part of that. And it has not worked out well for this town and for many other towns. It's meant to be a special case kind of thing for a mixed-use development or something really unusual, creative, and it became a way to avoid going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, essentially. So part of what we ended up doing was eliminating that, but introducing more zoning districts, so that if somebody comes in, they have to follow one of the town's zoning districts that set forth what the town standards are very clearly. One of the things that we heard from the steering committee is we want regulations to be clear what the expectations are, but we also want there to be choices. So we built that in too, so that to meet architectural standards, you pick so many from a list, for example. So one of the other things as we did this was there was a lot of discussion with our steering committee that things have changed too, and like you had one planned business zoning district. Well, commercial is very different these days. You have big boxes, you have mom and pop neighborhood scale commercial, and we needed more districts to deal with that. You needed more than one planned industrial district. You needed a light one and a heavy one. Just lots of different things. So there were a lot more zoning districts now than what you had. We did review in-house. Kayla and before her, Rachel did a lot of markups on their existing ordinance. They knew exactly where the day-to-day problems were that they ran into. Deb and I did our own review at the same time, and guess what? We ended up identifying the same issues. So we were kind of united on realizing what needed to be fixed. There were a lot of disconnects with everything from case law from the Supreme Court on signs to incorrect citations with state laws to all kinds of different things. So that was an important thing to fix as part of this. And then we also looked at the Board of Zoning Appeals cases and looked at the things that they repeatedly see over and over and grant over and over, and said, how can we address those so that we don't just have this step that people go through all the time. And examples of that would be accessory buildings, urban agriculture, things like that that we had to address. And then there were just a lot of new land uses that have popped up in the years since it was adopted. We have now solar and wind regulations. And Deb and I talked last night at the public, where I talked, she listened at that part, I think, about whether we should even include solar and wind commercial regulations in a town, because usually it's a rural area. but we thought it was safer to include them with some standards than to not include them. And if you get them, they would still have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for approval. They're still only allowed in limited zoning districts, ag and one other. So we had to address a lot of new land uses. One of the biggest things we heard from the steering committee is we need to protect Pendleton's unique character. That was something we heard over and over. So we did some different things that we don't always get to do. One of them was a new zoning district for the housing in the downtown area, the older housing. And it's basically an infill zoning district, RC district, which requires basically, if you're going to tear a house down or you're gonna build on an empty lot, you need to match the scale and form of what's around you. You have to have the same average setback. If everybody else has front porches, you have a front porch. So we had an architect on our committee. We all agreed that we didn't want to go so far as saying you have to have a certain architectural style, but the form needs to fit in, the scale needs to fit in. So we got to do some kind of cool things like that. The new ordinance introduces some best practices, like trying to reduce the amount of pavement we get with parking lots, including an option where we can phase in parking. Right now, people overbuild parking typically, especially for commercial. And so we end up with a lot of pavement, and a lot of runoff and so forth. So we've got an option for land banking in there where they have to lay it out, we approve it in advance, and then if the need is there, it's triggered and they have to install that extra percentage there. Also beefed up landscaping in this community. Trees are very important. We heard that loud and clear, so there are a lot more landscaping, front yard trees required, that kind of thing, than what you've had in the past. We introduced new processes. In the past, you only had one subdivision process, no matter what you were. So it was actually called a residential subdivision process, but commercial property subdivides, etc., and it really wasn't set up to do that. So now we have a minor subdivision, which is like 3 lots, no new roads, no new whatever, no new water and sewer lines, and that's an easier process. Then you've got a major residential process, but we also introduced commercial and industrial subdivisions so that you could end up with blocks and still do your secondary plat and go ahead and get it built and then come back later once you had a user or client. So we tried to really respond to some of the comments we heard from those focus groups on that. We have standards, designs in here. We have a whole chapter introducing what happens with what you have now, basically, the non-conformity, the things that are existing now that legally were developed continue to exist. If you tear it down and want to rebuild it, then you have to follow the new rules. If it burns down more than 50%, then you have to rebuild it in the new way. If it burns down only 25%, you can go back the way you were. So there were some discussions and decisions on things like that, and that's in chapter 9. And then that is kind of a summary of what we have in there. There's a lot there. We tried to make it more user-friendly with more charts, more tables, more pictures than just pages of text, with the understanding that this is a different age now. A lot of people are pulling this up on their computer and not carrying around books to look at. So that kind of is in a nutshell of what we've got and what's in there, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Comments or questions for KK or Kayla or?
Read through
Anna,
it.
anybody?
It's a good piece of work. You guys-
Sorry?
It's a good piece of work. You guys done a really thorough
you.
job
We
in
had
putting
a-
this together and.
We had a steering committee that I really appreciated all the different viewpoints, but yet really talking things through. And that is the biggest thing that helps Deb and I. We work all over the state. Every community is different, so
Yeah.
getting the pulse of what that community wants is really important.
Yeah, keep that historic footprint. It's very
Yeah.
important here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very good piece of work. what,
This-
200 and some pages.
This UDO, the book that KK's talking about there, that is online also, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I've read all 246 pages, because I have not. But it's something that's really gonna help the town in the long run. And it can be changed. That's one of the big things in the planning area, when I said the planning commission, everybody needs to understand, there's gonna be some bumps, okay? And when there is, then we bring it to the planning, our planning department does, and they'll make a recommendation. And they'll vote on it, and then it comes to us. I mean, all that's part of this document. This ordinance that we're looking at tonight, 21-18, even though it's only one page, it's probably one, and not taking away from any other ordinance, probably one of the most important ordinances that we've done since I've been on the council. I think you said back in 1990s, Kaler, last time we done it was 2000. So it's 21 years old, and things have changed, and it's good. I mean, now a developer can come in, a resident, all the rules are wrote down, and we can change them if we need to. I'm very big on what they've done. When I say they, Kayla's worked on this for over 2 years. I've preached about it for 2 years, fighting with different businesses that don't agree, and we didn't have any set rules. And this will take it away. Might even work yourself out of the job, Kayla. We may not need you guys anymore.
Yeah, that's
Kidding. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Marcy Deshawn, with Midwest Remodeling, and I have the honor of being able to sit on the steering committee with a lot of other town people, and I don't live in city limits. I own business property within city limits. But this UDO affects all of us. And I just wanted to let you know that, the steering committee, we did not come together and just all agree on the same thing. I mean, we did a lot of, there were a lot of times where KK was like, okay, we're gonna have to table this because we have been here for 2.5 hours already, and, because we really hashed it out, and we came from all different aspects, from realtors and remodelers and builders and roofers and people that were in the dirt kind of people and landscape people. So there was just lots of different minds coming together, and we really hashed through a lot of this with a lot of heart. And like KK said, we decided at the beginning that we wanted to come to a consensus. We didn't want somebody at the end of the table being mad and leaving and pitching a fit later. We wanted to be able to come to a meeting like this and not have everybody standing up saying, well, I didn't agree with that. So we really did work, and we really did compromise, and we came up, with things that we felt like were good for the future, and we tried to look into the future with parts of it, and tried to, almost like with the parking, well, less people are driving because they're working from home, and there's Uber, and there's all these, Instacart, I'm a big fan. And it's changing the way that our cities live and our structures live. And so I just wanted to thank them for the honor, and Kayla is an incredible employee. I hope you keep her.
We will.
I work with her a lot, and she's just a pleasure. These ladies really put a lot of sweat and work into this, and the whole steering committee did. And I just wanted to thank you and say that I hope you pass this UDO because it's a good piece of work.
Thank you for your input too. Appreciate it. Any questions from the council?
Again, I think you mentioned, Chettis, it is a very good piece of work, and I have read through the 240-some pages altogether. I've read through that. And I'm kind of a big fan of green space, and I like that you've got different criteria for a developer. They can look at that, kind of pick and choose, but there is requirements on their, particularly some of your smaller lots. It's the importance of green space, and you need that, in my view. And that's spelled out in different packages that a developer can look at, and some specific guidelines to go with. And it does put the town, I think, in control, for lack of better words, of of going forward. Not a deep pocket developer can come in and buy a couple hundred acres, and this is what we're gonna do. You've got, if we pass this, it says have specific guidelines, the developer can look at that, and if they don't find something they want to go with, they can look elsewhere. So it puts us in good position for the destiny of the town going forward. I think that's important. It's a good piece of work.
Just a question or clarification. Last night when I was listening to the planning commission, call, if we pass the ordinance, this does not actually go into effect until October 8th, correct?
Right. If you notice in the language
Okay, I just
there.
wanted to make sure that was,
Yeah.
last
Yep.
night I was trying to decipher what we were all talking
No.
about, and I was.
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
Melissa. Yep.
Why is that, Jeff, on the October 8th?
The staff has indicated that they need time to get up to speed with the actual enforcement of this, how this thing was actually gonna work in practice.
Okay.
We've been dealing with it in, since,
New application.
Something new, yeah.
some things
Okay.
like that, yeah.
so we just need time to get up to speed and ready to hit the ground running when it finally does take effect here in about 2 months.
Couple of months, makes sense.
Yep.
Somebody
Yeah.
gonna be busy getting married or something there at the end of the
Yeah.
month?
That's what I told Kayla last night when they passed it.
I didn't know
walked
there
up
was
to
a
her and
need
told
for
her, I
that.
said,
Huh?
now go
I
get
didn't know there
married.
was a need for that.
Any other comments or questions from the public? Ed?
Yep. Good evening, I'm a Decker lawyer, Maynard, represent some landowners on the other side of 69. And I kind of have my standard comment here. We've talked a lot about bringing Pendleton up to date with current Indiana law, bringing things into compliance with how the world looks in the future. But the planning commission that gave you a recommendation to pass this is not in compliance with Indiana law. Does not comply with membership requirements, which means it's not really a valid body. Your ordinance here requires a recommendation from a valid plan commission in order to pass this ordinance tonight. And without that, following that due process and that legitimacy, a developer, a pocketed developer, might be able, or would be able, to challenge the legitimacy of this ordinance and overturn it. So I would urge, on behalf of my client, counsel, follow the due process steps necessary to pass this before they pass it. That is my comment tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna,
I have a question.
sure.
You come up, I wanna ask the town attorney, I don't understand what's not, the planning commission, what's he talking about?
You wanna talk about what you're talking about?
Sure, I can. Indiana state statutes spell out the membership requirements necessary to have a planning commission. It's known as the home rule statutes. Most jurisdictions of states, powers devolve from the federal government to the state then devolves power down to local jurisdictions to have home governance. And as part of that, the state sets the requirement of when a town wants to have a planning commission and devolve part of the power of the sovereign to a planning commission, the planning commission must have membership requirements that follow the statute. Now, in this case, a town of the size of Pendleton must have 3 members of that planning commission who are either elected public officials, employees of the town that are direct municipal employees, or appointed public officials. And here in the case of the town of Pendleton, you do not meet that requirement. You do not have 3 members of the planning commission who meet the definitional requirements of that state statute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't really wanna go any farther unless you do, Jeff.
No, I disagree with that.
Yeah,
The
that's what I
planning
was gonna say,
commission is
but
in
I'm.
compliance with state statute.
Let the lawyer say it.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'm gonna make the motion to approve ordinance 21-18 on the UDO.
I'll second.
Thanks, Steve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Carried 5-0.
Good job, ladies.
Yep,
Good job.
that's a biggie. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is establishing impact fee review board. Jeff, why don't you, just tell us what
Recently,
I
I
need to do.
believe it was last month, we passed the impact
Yes.
fee ordinance. And one of the statutes that governs the use of, the operation of impact fee requires, we've just talked about due process. A due process for a person that might be aggrieved by the impact fee. They might disagree with our staff on the assessment of a fee or the lack of assessment of a fee. And in the interest of due process, the state has required us to establish a impact fee review board and each member has to have certain qualifications. You see them listed there on the ordinance itself. There is no residency requirement on this particular board that's listed in the statute. But they must hold those three different licenses: a CPA, an engineer that's an Indiana license, and a real estate broker in Indiana. You are allowed to set the terms of this board, and you also are allowed to set the member that, or how these members are actually selected. I had conversations with President Babb about this. I created one-year terms for flexibility purposes, and also left it in the hands of the town council president, whoever that shall be over time, as time goes by, that person will select each one. So that could be changed if the council would like. The council itself has to establish the board, the method on who's put on there, and what their terms are. That was what President Babb and I talked about in meetings, and that's our best guess on what the wishes of the council would be, but we can certainly change that. We've got some time before this board will be hearing things. It's next year, next January. So if anything in there does not look good to you, Phil, we can certainly amend that tonight or whatever you guys prefer.
Does everybody understand what he's saying? The first year, really not even the first year, because the impact fees don't start till January. So the rest of this year, we really won't have an impact fee. And this appointments are a one-year term that actually begin January 1st of 2022 and run through December 31st of 2022, the first year of the impact fee. And it's a review board that will meet as needed, okay? It's not something that's gonna meet once a month. It's when there's an issue, either somebody thinks you're charging too much or it's not enough, whatever. And like Jeff is saying, the requirements are very explicit, what we gotta do as far as a licensed broker, real estate, an engineer, and a CPA. So that's where we're at. Any questions or comments? I don't know if you guys have looked.
One thing that needs to be brought up, this is a non-paying board, and these are professionals that are gonna be donating their time to help with our program, so, you know.
I see a couple names on here at the bottom of the ordinance.
Yeah,
Are these people that have already been selected?
I have talked to them. We can either agree or disagree. The way, and if I'm wrong, Jeff, you tell me, once we got the impact fee ordinance passed in July, I was cautioned to, it's not the right word, we need to get this impact fee board, review board, by the end of July, and that's what I was trying to do. So, I still do not have a CPA, okay? Gary Nunley, I talked to Gary about this, is a real estate broker that's licensed in the state of Indiana. Joe Miller's an engineer licensed in the state of Indiana. So, if you know a CPA, or you want to change anything, I'm talking to the council now, you want somebody else different in there, tonight's the night to say something, and we don't have to approve this tonight.
And you can also approve it, you can take that part of it out. I just had that in there for informational purposes.
I would like to take that out, and have the council members make recommendation to President Babb regarding who they feel might be a proper representative of each category.
Jeff, what's the appeal process if we do approve this, as far as someone disagrees with the findings of the board? Is that would be a court issue, or how does that work?
Yes, a person that, if this board, once this board rules, a person appearing in front of them could always appeal it to circuit court in
Okay.
Madison County, right up the chain. So you have lots of ability to, if we're messing it up at the town level, you can have somebody else look at it at the judicial level.
Okay, so the enforcement of that, if we pass this, if someone goes ahead and violates the findings of the board, then we can enforce that.
Absolutely, yep. That'd be an ordinance violation we could issue. We would have a lot of teeth, a lot of weapons,
Yeah,
weapons, teeth,
okay,
better.
all right. So it's got teeth in it then?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Sounds bad.
It was mentioned about 1-year terms.
Hmm?
Yeah.
That's
Shouldn't
fine.
we have it like one for 1 year, one for 2 years, one for 3 to stagger them?
We could have the terms,
Stagger.
whatever the council prefers in establishing this. I borrowed heavily from the redevelopment commission statutes on this, when I did this, but that's Jeff Graham's guess. I didn't even talk to Chet about that particular issue, so please,
So we don't have to vote on this tonight, we can postpone this and then,
we just need to have this in place by the end of this year.
I'm gonna go ahead and table it from
yeah.
Steve's comment and what Shane said, and we'll just table this.
We've got some time.
Yeah, okay. Next thing is ordinance 21-20 is amending the 2021 salary ordinance. Scott, you wanna talk about that, take off? I don't have a copy of that one.
Yeah, so, one thing that we're doing, we're changing the title of our lead, the foreman in the water, street, and storm to supervisor. One of the reasons for this is, when they're interacting with the public, a contractor, which we're having a lot of contractors in town, you show up and you say the water foreman, you carry a lot more, clout if you come up and say you're the water supervisor, because then they know they're talking to the guy that's in charge of that water system. So that's, I think, something we need to do, and then we're raising the, salary of the water to be supervisor, to stay competitive with, the other towns.
Everybody understand what we're doing? We're just trying to clean up the
Yeah.
salary ordinance, to be honest with you.
Just for the name change and the pay raise.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the current pay for the water foreman an hour?
24.
53 or something like that.
Yeah, 20, I think it's right around 24.
Okay.
So this would put us where we're competitive then, if we approve this.
What?
This would make us competitive at $28 an hour with other
Yes.
communities.
Yeah.
Yes. In a similar situation, right?
Any other questions or comments?
I'd move for approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for ordinance 21-20, amending the 2021 salary ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Ordinance passed 5-0. Can we,
You could suspend the rules if you'd like.
I make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second that.
okay, I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules so we can vote for second reading. All in favor, say aye to suspend the
Aye.
rules.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now then, I need a,
Motion to approve 21-20.
I'll second that.
Second reading.
I got a motion and a second to approve the second reading on the 2021 salary ordinance amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ordinance is passed. Ordinance 21-22.
You're right.
Is creating impact fund, fee fund. It's something that we just have to do because we got the impact fee. The lawyer's actually trying to keep us in line, Willie, is what he's trying to do.
Do you have a fund number yet for that, Willie, or?
Not the impact
Okay,
fee,
well,
no.
and we can approve it,
Yeah.
contingent on the fund number being provided by the clerk treasurer's office. That's-
Okay.
You notice a blank there in the.
I'll make a
Any que-
motion to approve 21-22, and we'll wait to hear the fund number when it gets established.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second, to approve ordinance 21-22. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Okay, 5-0.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to have the second reading tonight for 21-22.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, to suspend the rules for ordinance number 21-22, second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same.
Make a motion to approve 21-22 on the second reading.
I'll second that.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion, second, to approve the second reading on ordinance 21-22. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ordinance is passed. Next one is a,
Resolution 21-08.
Resolution R 21-8, amending monthly transfers. Scott, why don't you just talk briefly about it? It's pretty
So,
straightforward.
Yeah, so when money comes in from people paying their electric bill, water bill, there's a set way that's been established for years. I think Doug McGee came up with this. For both elected, they're parallel, so I'll explain one and then I'll explain both. So first we pay the operating funds. There's an estimated amount they set aside each year, or each month. And then we pay any bonds. And we're using electric. And then, the next thing we pay is we transfer into the depreciation fund, which is gonna be used for vehicles and maintenance of the vehicles. And, we used to be at 7%, so whatever 7% of that monthly receipts were, then we would transfer that amount that was left over from operating and bonds, into that fund. So then, the next thing that gets paid is the transfer in lieu of taxes. We changed that this year. It's roughly for electric, $150,000 a year, water is $80,000 a year. And then the remaining goes into the, cumulative capital improvement fund, which is what we buy, transformers, poles, wires, substation equipment, that sort of thing. Well, now, as you know, we've actually, the cum cap fund does have other sources now, a new source. One is the system development fee, which has been doing very well. And, also, when Craig does a build out in one of the new subdivisions, we bill for that and their time, plus a 15% surcharge on materials. So that's another source that didn't exist before this year. So the cum cap is at the bottom of the trickle. Now it's got two other sources. It's doing very well. It only makes sense that we increase the depreciation funds for the electric and water.
So this is what it's doing, just to start changing those.
Yeah, we're increasing it. So, example, let's say our revenues were $100 for electric, right, and our operating expense was $65, right, and we had bonds of 10. We'd go back and we pull $100, so we would now deposit $10 into the depreciation. It would be 10%.
What do you think, Karen?
We talked about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we've had
I do.
20 different
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
So, we're good.
Any questions or comments on resolution R 21-08?
I just should say this. It used to be 7%, it's going to 10 for electric. It used to be 9.5 for water, it's going to 11.5.
One of the keys,
Cost of
I'm
business.
gonna go ahead and say this, if I'm wrong, tell me.
Okay.
But Craig does a tremendous job in the electric department, where in the past, we didn't, as far as charging for, we'd go out and spend $100,000 for some subdevelop, and we paid that, and got done 6 months later, we still hadn't got the $100,000. Now, it's almost a full-time job for that gentleman, but now he does that religiously, and we get a 15% surcharge on that from the
Material.
ordinance we passed on, I forget the name of that one, but
Yeah.
it, like Scott says, it just brings everything together, and we're getting paid for what we're doing. And we're tracking material and labor, which is a plus. And he does a tremendous job on it. Any other comments or questions? If not, can I have a motion to approve resolution R 21-08?
So moved.
Okay, Steve and then Bob, thank you. All in favor for resolution R 21-08? Say yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed, same. Resolution R 21-08 is passed. Good job. Okay, resolution, old business. R 21-07 is adopting the thoroughfare plan. Kayla, you still got a job.
Another big document here for final reading for you guys tonight. This time it's a resolution because it's a plan. So it amends our comprehensive plan and vision for the community as a whole. This was the thoroughfare plan, and it's talking about where roads are gonna be in the future. And as we can see, out of the interstate, things have changed a lot. And the Heritage Way roundabout, everyone notices it has a stub off to the north. What's that for? So this is a really sharp plan. Madison County Council of Governments did a fantastic job on it, put it together. Brandon Pandura is here virtually from New York, where he lives now. But I'm just waiting for the day when he can just like vaporize in front of us and give us this wonderful presentation, somewhat live, like Star Trek or something. But Ryan Phelps is here in person tonight, and he's gonna speak to you along with Brandon and give you guys the final rundown.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kayla, and good evening, everyone. Although I'm not there in person, I'm here tonight to provide you all the final Pendleton Thoroughfare Plan document. Last week at the Plan Commission meeting, we conducted the formal public hearing, first reading of the document, and received a favorable recommendation for the Thoroughfare Plan. Tonight, we are conducting the second reading and hopeful adoption of the Thoroughfare Plan. The plan will be adopted by resolution as an amendment to the town's comprehensive plan. The final Thoroughfare Plan document is in your Google folder and right now in front of you. I just wanted to point out 3 items about the final document that changed from the last time we met in July. First, you will notice an update to the executive summary. The executive summary was the last component of the document to be completed. It provides a synopsis of the entire thoroughfare planning process, which has been ongoing for 24 months now. Second, the public workshop section in chapter 3 was updated based on the results from the joint public workshop that was held 2 weeks ago. I want to take this time to thank town staff, plan commission members, and town council officials who came out to the event. We had a lot of great discussion on both the thoroughfare plan and unified development ordinance. You will see some images from the joint public workshop throughout the thoroughfare plan document. And finally, third, by combining input from the public workshop with the online action item prioritization survey, all of the action items within the 4 timeframes have been ranked by priority. Action items now appear in priority order where they did not before the public workshop. There are 2 common themes from prioritization. The first is the desire to implement the bicycle and pedestrian master plan and create a dedicated sidewalk improvement program to replace existing sidewalks and fill in the gaps where sidewalks are missing. The second is the desire to prioritize the North Heritage Way Extension project. So in closing, I want to take this time to thank town staff. They have been great to work with, and we plan to continue to work with them in the future. Also, it has been great to work with the steering committee, plan commission, and town council during this process. Our last step in the process will be seeking the adoption of the thoroughfare plan tonight. I could take any of your questions now before we complete the second reading and hopeful adoption of the thoroughfare plan.
Jeff, is this a resolution or an ordinance?
Resolution, sir. Yep, this is as Kayla said, this is changing a plan, your comprehensive plan, not necessarily an ordinance.
Okay.
And so, which is, most of your planning documents are based on this plan, but this is a resolution which is saying that the thoroughfare plan that has been drafted, reviewed by the Plan Commission and had first reading, is indeed that you're adding that to the town's comprehensive plan.
Okay, okay. Any questions or comments, council? If not, can I have a motion to approve resolution R21-07 adopting the thoroughfare plan?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R2107.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Resolution R21-07 is approved. Ordinance 21-21, creating thoroughfare fund. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Brandon can jump in as well. Sorry, Ryan Phelps, I'm the principal transportation planner with the Madison County Council of Governments. I've been working with Brandon on the thoroughfare plan project as well as the thoroughfare fund. While we were working through the thoroughfare plan itself, there were lots of discussions on financial sustainability and how to fund the improvements and actions that are recommended within the thoroughfare plan. The state of Indiana allows the town to create what they call a thoroughfare fund, and the purpose of that is to house transportation dollars to spend directly on the projects that are identified within the thoroughfare plan. So I believe that we're looking to actually go ahead and establish the fund itself. Now, there's no dedicated amount of dollars that are going into that fund yet, but as soon as the fund is established, the town also has the option then to levy a new tax called a thoroughfare fund tax of, I'm probably gonna misquote the number, something like minimum of 1 cent per $100 of assessed value and a maximum of 5 cents on $100 of assessed value. And so I believe that our numbers look something like $35,000 to $150,000 that the town could levy, depending on where that tax eventually falls. But the purpose being to help generate some additional funds so that the town can pay for the improvements that are recommended within the thoroughfare.
Questions or comments?
So if I understand correctly, this, if we approve this, it just sets the table that you can create this. It doesn't actually set a rate at this point in time.
That's right.
Or this is important to receive funds for that.
I can't hear you, Scott.
Or also to receive funds, that's what we
Okay.
would put it. Doesn't necessarily have to be when taxes created.
Yeah.
If we did get funds.
So we do need set up so that we can receive the funds that are coming in
Yeah.
with the
Whatever
the
they may
fees.
be.
Okay. So if we do a tax, that could be, later on, we'd have a discussion on that.
Right.
Yeah, that'd require public hearings and
Right.
all kinds of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not voting on a tax,
Right.
it's just a fund
Okay.
that can receive monies, which includes also if there was a tax.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not, can I have a motion to approve ordinance 21-21 on creating a thoroughfare fund?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Okay, ordinance 21-21, first reading is approved.
Make a motion to suspend the rules and have a second reading.
I have a motion to suspend.
Second.
And Steve. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules on ordinance number 21-21. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. So, Shane?
Make a motion for a second reading.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the second reading on ordinance number 21-21. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ordinance is passed through second reading. Good job.
And I also just say real quick that it has been really great to work with the town staff has been incredible. Kayla, Todd, Brandon, and I a lot throughout this entire process as well. And then to your earlier comment and question about the ordinance versus resolution, our team also did work very closely with KK and Dev on the UDO, which is the enforcement side, to make sure that elements of the thoroughfare plan were being included in the UDO that you guys adopted earlier tonight as well. So there is enforcement happening, there was coordination throughout the entire process. And finally, I just want to commend the town on the thoroughfare plan update, the UDO update, the impact fee update. Just a couple of years ago, the comp plan update, the bike and pedestrian master plan, and the interchange master plan. The town has clearly been working very, very hard to make sure that you're planning for the future, and I really want to commend you all on the work that's been happening here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your help.
Yeah.
Any public comments? Anybody online? Nope.
One more thing to add.
You're not public.
We're also, just to give you guys a heads up for next month, fingers crossed, we're also working on the interchange master plan, quadrant plan. So you'll be seeing that here soon, and that is like the fourth final piece, as well as an update to our street standards, which is all being, this has been like 4 big plans, all being completed together. I've got like a color-coded Word document timeline deal that I've had going since I took this position, and it's downright impressive. And I could not have done it without the awesome team that I have. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
We did it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.